showcase this evening. I've brought two of my company dancers with me, Tori and Charles. Would you like to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about the past dancing history?
Hi, I'm Tori. I'm originally from New Jersey. I danced at Princeton Ballet School, which is when I first met Graham. I've known Graham since I was 10. And then I graduated high school, moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and danced with North Carolina Dance Theater for 3 years. And then moved back up here last year, and this is my second year with Graham Lustig at Lustig Dance Theater.
Hi, I'm Charles Way from Baltimore, Maryland originally. Been training in dance for about 6 or 7 years now. This is my first full season with the company. I met Graham in January of this year. So yeah, hope you enjoy.
Thank you very much. And as you can tell, I'm not originally from New Jersey. This accent, I live in Hyde Park, but I was born and raised in London, and I danced with Dutch National Ballet and with the Sadler's Wells Royal Ballet. That was my main career. I stopped dancing, of course, like most dancers, in my late 30s, and I've been directing and choreographing ever since. And it's a real pleasure to be working here in New Jersey. We have a studio in New Brunswick, and we have a company of 11 dancers. We have a dancer wellness studio where we give all types of ballet classes, and two of our students are sitting here, dressed in pink, so you know they're ballerinas. And Molly is also has studied with us in the summer, and all three ladies are going to be performing with us in our new upcoming production. So, warm welcome. The production is called a Jazzy Nutcracker, and it's with a commissioned score by Paul Andriner, who teaches composition at Mason Gross School of the Arts. And I've just taken the whole story and set it in London in the 1960s. And I happen to have a little bit of experience of that because I was growing up there. And I thought it was a really cool time to retell the story. So it's a very modern type of interpretation, and yet it has a traditional core to it. It's a young girl who is given a nutcracker, who dreams about falling in love and going to a great party. I've told it slightly differently, and we're going to show you a few highlights. Obviously, space is limited, as you can tell, but I'm sure we're going to do a great job. At the party, in which there are many characters, parents and children, it's a festive gathering. One of the fathers has a propensity for martinis, so we call this the martini dance. And Charles will demonstrate his skills with a martini glass, an imaginary martini glass in his hand. Has anybody here seen the Nutcracker ever?
Television.
You've seen it on so there's act one usually finishes with a snow scene. Yeah, they go to the snow forest and their conifers and everybody's a beautiful dance with many ballerinas. Well, I wanted to do something slightly different with my story, and so when she rescues Santa Claus from the aliens, I'll go into that later. There is really a movie that Santa Claus conquers the Martians. If you go on YouTube, you can find that. So there's a Santa Claus in my production, and he's so pleased that she's been saved. He invites her to go to a skating rink. Now this floor is a little slippery for the dancers, so I'm sure they'll do a very good job giving the imitation of skating here. But we're just going to show you a small highlight. There are many more dancers, as you can imagine, in the whole production, and they're wearing, Victoria would have on a beautiful red skating coat trimmed in white fur. There's also a dancing Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus all skating around together with 6 snowballs. A little bit of introduction. Mentioned that I worked with Paul Undriner, the composer, and what you're listening to is a computer realization of what the jazz band will sound like, because we actually haven't even rehearsed with a jazz band yet. This production goes on the 14th of December at Monroe Township Performing Arts Centre, and it's a 900-seat theatre, and we're selling really well. So if you want tickets, you have to get in fairly soon. There's some flyers over there which you can take as you leave. The story of the Nutcracker, she's taken to the land of sweets, where there are all these different, what we call divertissements, different dances. So growing up in London, there were some pretty amazing stores there in the 1960s. One of them was called Viva, which is a really inspiring place. And so I imagine that she goes to a store, first of all preceded by a holiday parade, and we have members of Monroe Township High School marching band on stage with us as well. And after the holiday parade, we go inside the store, which is called Drosselmeyer's. We have a fashion show. That's if you've seen the Nutcracker, you will have known that there are all these dances that come from different countries, like Spain, Spanish dance, the Arabian dance, the Chinese dance, and Russian dance. So I've done that as a fashion show. So the models come forward showing the latest spring fashions based on designs that you would have seen in England or in Europe in the 1960s. The Spanish costume is based on a design by Valencia from the 1960s, which is a toreadora, a woman toreador's costume, wearing a high-low mini dress, and Tori's got epaulets and a wonderful cap on as well. So we're going to show you Tori's dance is actually for 3 ladies, and Charles's dance is a trio with 2 men and a lady. They're going to give you an idea of what these dances look like. Very different in style. This is from the fashion show in Act 2. Charles's dance was the version of the Arabian, as I mentioned. There's another lady and a gentleman in that dance. Then we have a Chinese dance, which has a model and 6 young dancers. One of them is here with us this evening. And then we also finish with a Russian dance. Now, in England we have a tradition, I don't know if you've ever heard of pearly kings and queens. Never heard of them? No. Nobody? Okay, well, it's a very interesting tradition. So we had people who worked in the markets. They were called, the old-fashioned term, a name for them was costermongers, barrow keepers, people who came out with fruit and vegetables. They didn't have a union, they didn't have anybody to look after them. And a gentleman in about 1850 decided to take old dropped buttons and sew them into a suit. And he covered his suit with patterns in pearl buttons. It became very lavish and extravagant, and he pretended to be a king. And then he would go with his wife to open charity events, because what the pearly kings and queens do, and it's a tradition that has passed through generations, that about 30 families continue to keep this alive all these years later, and they raise money for charity. In the original iteration, they were raising money for their own, because there was no union for costermongers. And so if someone was widowed or someone became injured on the job, they would get some sustenance, some help, some financial aid. But so I start with my holiday parade with a wonderful dance in which Molly is performing, where they are, let me see, My Fair Lady, the movie, where they're all dancing around. That's the sort of the type of dance that I've created there. So there are very different types of dance in the whole production. And then at the end of Act 2, the whole store becomes a magical ballroom. We have a whole sort of big ballet sequence. And I clearly can't show you very much of that today, but here's a little fragment of sort of the more classical work that we would be doing in that. So this is towards the end of the production. Great job, you guys. Thank you very much. Not a lot of space, and they've had a long day, so they're doing a terrific job. Do you have any questions, perhaps, for the dancers or for me about production, anything you might have seen or anything you might want to know about the world of dance that we live in and work in?
I was going to ask the dancers, how long do you train for or rehearse for this, and then ask you, how long did it take you to put this together? So.
We rehearse from about 10:30 to about 4:30. Every day we have an hour break in between, and those are our main rehearsal times. We've been working on Nutcracker pretty much since our third week back. We were working on another production, so we were working on this for quite a while. And now we're in like the cleaning process, and all the choreography is finished. So now we're just polishing and getting ready to perform.
I actually began working with some of the dancers last May, developing some ideas for the piece, just trying out a few things, and it's 2 years in the planning. It's 2 years since I put all of the ideas together and began working with Paul Andrina, because it takes a long time to work on commissioned score. The whole score is commissioned, and as you may recognize, some of these tunes are Tchaikovsky's, but scored differently. And for instance, I took some of the music that usually is in Act 2 and had that turned into a carol for Act 1 for a particular purpose, just for fun. And I think Paul Andrina's done a fantastic job with the music. I know you're listening to this computer, but as I hear it, it's going to be really beautiful. And as I mentioned, we have the high school marching band as well, so sometimes it really swells to a very big orchestral sound. Been working on the costumes for about a year. They started making them in August. I started working with the students at the beginning of October. We've got every weekend since then. So it's pretty intensive. I have to live and breathe it all day long. I've got all the lighting, all the decor. I've done all the props myself. So
I was curious, all of this preparation and hard work and
Yes.
toil, just for the one performance, or are you going to be doing others? Just the one in Monroe you talked about?
we're doing 2 performances on the same day. So we have the possibility of getting 2 houses and 2 box offices.
That's it.
But well, that's right. But there are many Nutcrackers around, and I'm trying to do something that's unique and different that you won't see elsewhere. And I think it's important that we don't overburden our box office. Test it. I'm already having discussions with some local theatres for December 2014, in which they might book us. So if you understand the difference, we're self-presenting in Monroe, so we carry all the risk, and the potential box office. But if you're presented, then you don't carry the marketing costs or the box office risk. So that's a much safer place. So I think it's just being cautious for now. This is our 4th year of operation, and as I mentioned, we've got 52 students in the production with the company, the marching band, the jazz band. It's a huge endeavour with only 5 staff members, and of course there's a board of directors as well working to help us market and promote the production. So it's a lot to pull together for a small organisation right now, and we want to go to 3 venues and not sell. That would be just ghastly. So do well, and then build from doing even better the next year. I appreciate you coming and spending the time with us this evening. Thank you very much. If I may give you a flyer, I'd like to thank Sergio and Karen. Thank you.
Thank you,
for
guys.
hosting us.
Thank you for sharing your talent. Thank you.